I think he'll change. He is committed of his own level of service. And
Princess Anne did not raise her voice. She did not need to. Standing before a silent royal council, she placed a confidential file on the polished table and exposed an arrangement that had been moving quietly through palace channels. Camilla had attempted to secure the prestigious Royal Food and Heritage Trust patronage for her son, Tom Parker Bowles, without the full council's approval. In that instant, a private family ambition became a constitutional embarrassment. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Anne entered the chamber. Camilla followed every step, while Charles studied his sister's expression and understood this was no routine discussion. The Royal Food and Heritage Trust was a fictional institution linking royal estates, historic kitchens, charitable food programs, and Britain's culinary traditions. Its patronage meant prestige and palace access, making the appointment more powerful than an honorary role. Charles knew the position had become vacant after a senior royal patron stepped aside. That departure triggered a formal process in which trustees compared experienced candidates. William had reviewed the timetable, and he knew the council had not completed its vote. Anne was not challenging a finished decision. She was exposing an outcome prepared before the decision existed. The Princess Royal opened the file and read one sentence aloud. Palace staff had been instructed to prepare Tom Parker Bowles for announcement as the trust's next patron. Camilla's face stiffened as her son's name filled the room. The Queen Consort looked toward Charles, but the king did not rescue her. He remained still, trapped between his wife and the sister holding the evidence. Anne then produced an internal memorandum marked with notes from Camilla's private office. A memorandum was an official written instruction guiding palace action, and this one carried a devastating phrase. Tom's candidacy was to be treated as a family priority, not an ordinary nomination. William leaned closer. The future king read the annotation twice, then looked toward his father. The princess stated the accusation plainly. Camilla had used her royal position to push her son ahead of the approved process. She slid copies toward Charles and William, forcing both men to confront the paper trail. The monarch removed his glasses and placed them beside the file. Camilla insisted there had been a misunderstanding. Anne did not soften. She said the memorandum was only the beginning, and she knew the exact moment the plan had first been set in motion. To understand why she chose to strike now, the palace would have to confront the private loyalties that had turned a ceremonial appointment into a battle over royal service. For Camilla, Tom Parker Bowles was not a political calculation. He was her son, a man who had spent much of his life standing close enough to royalty to feel its pressure, yet far enough away to receive none of its protection. But for Princess Anne, that distinction was precisely the point. The crown could not become a private reward system. One woman saw an opportunity to defend her family. The other saw a dangerous boundary being erased. Camilla believed Tom's career gave him a natural connection to the trust. He was a respected food writer, and his work appeared to fit an institution devoted to royal estates, historic kitchens, charitable food programs, and Britain's culinary heritage. A royal patronage was a formal public role, linking someone to a charity or national cause, and this one carried influence, visibility, and direct association with the monarchy. Anne saw something else. The Princess Royal had spent decades earning trust through public service, and she believed such roles were obligations, not gifts. Allowing a royal relative with no constitutional duty to advance through private influence would weaken the standard expected of everyone serving the crown. Camilla spoke to Tom privately before the scandal broke. She told him the appointment could finally allow him to contribute in his own right, rather than remain forever described only as her son. He listened, but his confidence did not match hers. Tom hesitated before asking the question she had hoped to avoid. Did Charles truly support the appointment? Had the council agreed? Camilla assured him that the necessary conversations were underway and that no serious resistance remained. Her calm voice concealed how far her office had already pushed the process. Tom believed his name was still one among several on a formal shortlist, the approved group of candidates awaiting final consideration. He did not know briefing papers had been requested. He did not know security arrangements were being explored. He did not know a proposed announcement date had already entered the palace calendar. Anne understood the danger immediately. She had seen privilege threaten duty before, and she knew one unchecked appointment could create a precedent. Other relatives might later demand roles and access using family connection as their strongest qualification. The issue was no longer only Tom. It was what could follow him. William studied the memorandum beside Anne and lowered his voice. The document proved interference, he said, but it did not explain why experienced officials had obeyed without question. The princess answered that the reason lay months earlier, during a ceremony where Camilla believed no one important was listening. That forgotten ceremony would become the point of no return, because one brief conversation after the guests had departed revealed how far the queen consort was prepared to go. The plan did not begin in a council chamber. It began after a Windsor Castle reception. When the music had stopped, the guests had gone, and only a handful of senior figures remained beneath the weight of royal silence. Camilla approached the trust's outgoing chairman near the doorway and made a request that sounded casual, but carried the authority of the queen consort. Tom, she said, should not merely be considered. His appointment should be made inevitable. Charles was greeting the final departing guests when the conversation began. The Windsor Culinary Heritage Reception was a formal gathering celebrating Britain's historic food traditions and the charities connected to royal estates. Sir Jonathan Reeves, the outgoing chairman of the Royal Food and Heritage Trust, believed the evening was over. Then Camilla stopped him before he could leave. The queen consort praised Tom's knowledge, public profile, and long experience as a food writer. She said her son understood the trust's mission better than most candidates and could protect its future. Sir Jonathan listened carefully, but the request soon became sharper. Camilla told him Tom's name needed to reach the top of the selection list. Anne returned unexpectedly to collect a forgotten briefing folder. The Princess Royal slowed when she heard voices beyond a partially closed door. She caught the final sentence clearly. Camilla said the appointment would mean more to the family than anyone understands. Anne did not enter. She did not interrupt. Instead, she remained silent as the queen consort touched Sir Jonathan's arm before leaving. The gesture confirmed what the words had already suggested. This had not been offered as friendly advice. It had been delivered as an expectation. Sir Jonathan acted soon afterward. He instructed the trust's secretary to revise the candidate criteria around food publishing, public recognition, and media experience. Those changes placed Tom's background at the center of the assessment. Long-serving charity leaders who had once ranked strongly were quietly moved below him. Anne began collecting proof. She preserved copies of correspondence after discovering that Camilla's deputy private secretary had requested a draft announcement before the trustees had met. A deputy private secretary was a senior aide who managed official business and communications for a royal household. That request showed the palace was preparing an outcome before the formal decision existed. The final proof arrived on a council agenda. Tom's appointment appeared under approved royal patronages, meaning roles treated as settled rather than pending nominations, which remained open for debate. Anne understood the danger immediately. The announcement was only days away. Observation was no longer enough. With the decision about to become public, the princess had to confront Camilla directly, and behind a closed palace door, months of restraint were about to collapse. There were no cameras, no ceremonial smiles, and no aides to soften the words. Princess Anne stood across from Camilla in a private sitting room and placed the proposed announcement between them. The queen consort reached for it. Anne kept one hand firmly on the page. What followed was not a disagreement over a charity. It was a direct collision between two women defending entirely different visions of family, privilege, and the crown. Anne had requested the meeting before the scheduled council session. A royal council session was a formal gathering where senior members reviewed important decisions before they were approved. Camilla arrived expecting a discussion about timing and wording. She did not know the princess had already gathered the Windsor account, the revised shortlist, and the request for an early announcement. Anne asked one question. Had Camilla instructed officials to prepare Tom's appointment before the trustees had approved him? The queen consort rejected the accusation immediately. She called her involvement ordinary support for a qualified candidate, and insisted her son had earned the right to be considered. Camilla reached across the table for the document. Anne pulled it back. The princess told her that motherhood did not grant authority over the crown's institutions. Those institutions mattered, because their trust depended on public confidence, not private family pressure. Camilla's restraint finally broke. She said Tom had spent years under scrutiny without using his royal connection for personal gain. Her son had been judged for standing near the monarchy, yet denied the dignity of serving beside it. She accused Anne of treating him like an intruder before he had even begun. Anne did not retreat. She revealed that she had heard the Windsor conversation herself, then produced the documented changes to the candidate criteria and the premature announcement request from Camilla's office. The princess explained how Tom's background had been placed at the center of the selection process, while stronger charity candidates were pushed down. Camilla's expression changed. She had not known Anne stood behind the partially closed door that night. The queen consort now understood that the accusation did not rest on gossip. It came from a witnessed conversation and a preserved paper trail. Camilla accused Anne of turning private family support into public humiliation. The princess answered that the humiliation began when palace authority transformed a mother's wish into an official outcome. Anne rose to leave. Camilla warned that Charles would never allow his wife to be disgraced before the council. The princess paused at the door and delivered the final blow. The king had already received the file. The confrontation was over, but the real decision now rested with Charles, a husband asked to protect his wife, and a monarch required to protect the institution. Charles read the memorandum twice, the first time as a king, the second time as a husband. Each reading produced a different wound. As monarch, he saw a royal process bent around private influence. As Camilla's husband, he saw a woman trying to secure dignity for her son after years of public hostility. He placed the pages down without speaking, knowing that whatever decision he made would feel like a betrayal to someone he loved. Charles alone could halt the palace announcement and order a fresh trustee vote. A trustee vote was the formal decision made by the people legally responsible for the trust, and without it, no appointment should have moved forward. His choice would decide whether Camilla's actions were treated as a careless mistake or a serious breach of royal limits. William did not soften his advice. The prince told his father that changing the wording would solve nothing. Tom's nomination had to be withdrawn completely, because public confidence depended on the belief that royal patronages were earned through service, not arranged through family pressure. The future king understood that one exception could weaken every appointment that followed. Charles remained alone after the others left. He turned back to Camilla's handwritten note and read the sentence again. This would finally give Tom his rightful place. The king closed his eyes, then folded the page into the file as though hiding the words might reduce their weight. Camilla entered without waiting to be announced. She asked him not to let Anne destroy her son's future. The queen consort insisted that Tom had suffered enough, simply because of who his mother was. Charles answered quietly that the princess had not created the documents. Camilla froze. She had expected anger, perhaps disappointment, but not the absence of immediate defense. The king's calmness hurt more than accusation, because it told her he already believed the evidence. Charles then admitted his own part in the crisis. Months earlier, he had told Camilla she could explore suitable charitable work for Tom. He meant she could identify opportunities and follow the normal process. She had heard something else: permission to secure the trust. The monarch discovered that her office had cited his private remark as the king's approval. Those words carried enormous force because palace officials rarely challenged instructions linked directly to the sovereign. Charles realized his ambiguity had allowed private ambition to appear as a royal command. Charles signed an order suspending the announcement and demanded an emergency review. Camilla removed her wedding ring and placed it beside his pen. For several long seconds, neither spoke. Then she put it back on and walked away. The appointment had been stopped, but the consequences had only begun, and Tom was about to learn what had been done in his name. Tom Parker Bowles learned that his appointment had been suspended from a palace official, not from his mother. The call lasted less than 2 minutes, but by the end of it, everything he believed about the nomination had changed. He had not been one candidate among many. Preparations had begun before the vote. His name had become the center of a royal dispute, and the person who had placed him there was the woman who believed she was protecting him. Tom had been sitting in his study, reviewing notes for what he thought would be a routine trustee interview. A trustee interview was the formal meeting used to judge whether a candidate was suitable for a charitable role. The official told him that every preparation had been frozen, while a royal inquiry examined how his name had moved through the system. Tom listened in silence, as the details became worse. His briefing session had already been authorized. A security assessment had been requested. An introductory visit was being arranged before the trustees had approved anything. He finally understood why Anne had intervened. The princess had not blocked a fair appointment. She had stopped a decision that was already being treated as complete. Tom went directly to Camilla. He placed the unopened patronage briefing pack on the table between them and asked whether she had ever intended to let the process decide his suitability honestly. The queen consort tried to explain, but her son did not look away. Camilla insisted she had only removed obstacles created by years of prejudice against their family. She said Tom would never receive a fair hearing while people continued to judge him through her marriage and royal position. Her son answered that she had not removed prejudice. She had handed critics proof that he was benefiting from it. Tom then revealed what he had never told her. He had planned to withdraw if another candidate possessed stronger charitable experience. He wanted the position only if he could earn it without special treatment. Camilla's intervention had taken that choice away from him. Camilla urged him to issue a united statement defending the nomination. Tom refused. He sat down and wrote directly to the trust, withdrawing his name and declaring that the organization should not carry the burden of his family's conflict. Tom sealed the letter as his mother watched. Camilla asked whether Anne had persuaded him to surrender. He answered that the princess had never contacted him. The decision was his alone. For the first time, the dispute was no longer Anne against Camilla. It had become a son rejecting the protection his mother had risked everything to provide, and that refusal changed the balance of power. Anne expected anger when Tom asked to meet her. Instead, she found him alone, without advisors, documents, or ceremonial protection. He did not come to defend the appointment. He came to understand why she had exposed it so publicly. For the first time since the crisis began, two people stood face to face without speaking for Camilla, Charles, or the palace. What passed between them would decide whether the scandal ended in bitterness or something closer to dignity. Tom had requested the conversation at St. James's Palace, one of the monarchy's working royal residences used for official meetings and private business. No palace secretary attended. Without an aide recording every phrase, he and Anne could finally speak without the careful language that had hidden the truth for months. Anne told him she had never questioned his knowledge of food, history, or culture. The princess believed his career made him a credible candidate. Her objection was simpler and far more serious. Camilla's office had treated the result as settled before the independent trustees had fulfilled their duty. Tom listened, then admitted what the patronage had meant to him. Part of him wanted the role because it would prove he belonged within the wider royal story. He had spent years close to the institution, but never fully inside it. Anne understood the wound, yet she answered without hesitation. Belonging could not be manufactured through a title. Tom asked why she had not spoken to him before placing the documents before the council. Anne's expression tightened. The princess confessed that she feared any warning would give officials time to bury the evidence, rewrite the paper trail, and continue with a quieter version of the same arrangement. Anne then revealed something he had not expected. Through a documented recommendation submitted to the review, she had asked that Tom remain eligible for future non-royal charity work, provided every position was secured through an open and independent process. She had wanted to stop the manipulation, not destroy his future. Tom reached into his coat and handed her a copy of his withdrawal letter. The document stated that he would accept no patronage created through family pressure, and that the trust should choose someone untouched by royal influence. He asked Anne to read it to the council herself. Tom paused before leaving. He asked the princess to tell Camilla that he did not hate her. He simply needed his mother to understand that love became destructive when it denied another person the right to stand alone. Anne promised to deliver the message. Soon, those words would escape the palace not through private correspondence, but across front pages, broadcasts, and a country suddenly divided over the princess's extraordinary intervention. By sunrise, the private memorandum had become the most discussed document in Britain. One newspaper printed Anne's unsmiling face beneath the headline, "The Princess Draws the Line." Another placed Camilla and Tom side by side and asked whether maternal loyalty had been mistaken for royal entitlement. Outside Buckingham Palace, supporters gathered behind the barriers. Some praised the exposure, others called it a family humiliation. The monarchy's private argument had become a public judgment. Broadcasters interrupted normal royal coverage to announce that Tom had withdrawn and Charles had ordered an independent review. An independent review was a formal examination carried out to determine what went wrong and who had influenced the decision. The story mattered because royal patronages depended on public trust, and any sign of family favor threatened every charitable role connected to the crown. Palace Communications released a carefully worded statement. No candidate, it said, could be appointed through assumed royal approval without documented consent from the trustees. The statement protected the monarchy by defending the process, but it offered no personal defense of Camilla. That silence was impossible to miss. Anne's car passed the gates of Buckingham Palace as the crowd began chanting her name. The princess remained still inside, gripping her gloves instead of acknowledging the praise. She had exposed the arrangement to protect royal standards, not to become the public winner of a family collapse. Camilla watched the coverage alone. Commentators described her as a mother who had crossed a constitutional line, meaning the boundary separating private family wishes from the proper use of royal authority. The Queen Consort endured the criticism until a broadcaster began reading Tom's withdrawal letter aloud. Then she switched off the television. Tom's words changed the public mood. The letter, released through the Trust's official statement, confirmed that he would accept no honor created through family pressure. He was praised for walking away from a role he could not receive cleanly, separating his reputation from the actions of his mother's office. Charles soon received the review's conclusion. Several officials had acted on implied pressure rather than written authority because they believed Camilla's wishes carried the king's approval. The monarch ordered new safeguards requiring documented trustee consent before any briefing, security preparation, or announcement could begin. Anne had won the institutional argument. Tom had cleared his name, yet Camilla remained trapped between shame and resentment, unable to decide whether the princess had saved the monarchy or destroyed her family's dignity. The public had delivered its judgment, but the final verdict would come behind palace doors, where Camilla faced the son she tried to elevate and the woman who stopped her. The final meeting contained no accusations. The evidence had already spoken, the appointment had already collapsed, and the monarchy had already changed its rules. Camilla entered knowing she could no longer defend the process. Anne arrived without the confidential file. Tom stood between them not as a proposed patron, not as the Queen Consort's son, but as the person whose future had nearly been decided without his full understanding. This time, everyone spoke only for themselves. Charles gathered Camilla, Anne, Tom, and William for one final private meeting. The king confirmed that the Royal Food and Heritage Trust would select its next patron through an independent and fully documented process. That meant every candidate would face the same standards, every trustee would record a vote, and no royal office could quietly shape the outcome in advance. Charles then announced permanent reforms preventing royal households from advancing relatives through informal instructions. A royal household was the team of aides and officials supporting each senior member of the family, and its influence could carry enormous weight. William would supervise the first review of existing patronages, ensuring the new safeguards were applied without favor. Camilla turned toward Tom. Her voice carried none of the certainty that had driven the original plan. She admitted that fear for his future had become permission, in her mind, to control it. The Queen Consort had wanted to protect her son from prejudice, but instead, she had made his achievements appear dependent on her power. Tom accepted the apology, though he did not erase the boundary now standing between them. He told his mother that he would continue supporting charitable causes without royal sponsorship. Camilla struggled to answer. Then she reached for his hand and, for the first time, allowed him to decide what came next. Anne spoke only after the silence settled. Through a documented request to the trust, the princess had asked that the private correspondence remain confidential, beyond what the review required. She had exposed the interference to stop it, not to turn accountability into endless punishment. Camilla finally faced Anne. The admission came slowly, but it came clearly. She said the princess had been right to stop the appointment. Royal service could not be inherited through closeness to the crown, nor secured through influence hidden behind family loyalty. Anne's exposure had not destroyed the family. It had forced them to remember what the monarchy demanded. Charles chose integrity over convenient silence. Tom reclaimed his independence by walking away. Camilla learned that maternal love could not justify institutional pressure. Anne proved that loyalty was not obedience. It was the courage to stop those nearest the throne from weakening it. The file that entered the council chamber as evidence of division became an instrument of reform. One patronage disappeared, one family illusion was broken, and one principle survived intact. The crown may honor service, but it must never manufacture status for those the royal family wishes to protect. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.